This
Chaitanya.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay. It's recorded in the meeting. I'll just see. I think in our previous class we discussed about data types, right, and variables. Am I right? Okay. Variable. Naming rules for variable. In that he will ask, can we create a variable name by starting with any number? Can we start any variable name like int 4 underscore or 4 something 4 underscore age? Can we start like this? No. Why? Because the variable name should start with any alphabet or underscore or like this. Age, it is also okay, acceptable, or is also acceptable. Okay. But the thing is, if you start with any number, it is not acceptable. Okay. Variable name, that is very very important. Okay. We should not use keywords as a variable names. Okay. And it should not start with number. Okay. That is the thing. Today our topic is input output operators. Input output operations for operators. Okay. Basically, what are the input and output operators we have? Good evening, Chandrasekhar. Good evening, Maggie. Tell me basically which input output operators we have? Functions. Okay. Before knowing input and output operation, we should understand what is input and what is output. I think most of you know what is input and output, but maybe there are some students who don't know still the exact meaning of input and output. Okay, for them I am explaining what is input and what is output. All the data entered, all the data entered from the keyboard, from the keyboard. Okay, all the data entered from the keyboard, it should must stored into the variable which we declared in the variable section of the program. You got it? Okay. Okay. What is input? All the data. For example, just now I typed all this information, right? All this information. All the data entered from the keyboard, which we are giving to the server or compiler through keyboard, must be stored. It should be stored in somewhere. Okay. Every value should be stored in somewhere. Okay. That that storage, that storage is called here variable. It's like a address. Okay. For example, if you declare one variable x and you entered value 5, okay, it should be stored in somewhere, some variable, that is called x here. So here x is nothing but it holds some values. Whatever you are giving to the computer or C compiler through keyboard, okay, that should be stored into the variable. Which variable? When we declare in our declaration section, after void main we have to declare, okay, some variables. There are two types of variables. One is local variable and another one is global variable. I will explain what is local variable and what is global variable. Okay. Okay, this storage, this activity or this storage is known as, you can call it the activity, or else the storage, this activity is known as input. This activity known as input. Okay, what is input? Okay, whatever the data we entered from the keyboard, it should be stored in some variable, that is called input. Input is nothing but that value. It is nothing but the entire activity. It is called input. Okay, if someone say give the inputs, give the inputs, it is nothing but activity, the complete activity. Okay, input is not a value or not a character or not a string. What is input? It is nothing but activity. Give me your inputs of the last operation, then we have to give all the activity. Okay, so here input means all the data entered through keyboard, okay, which stored in variable of our program. This entire activity is called input. This entire activity is called input. Okay, but most of the thing in general, we assume that input is nothing but the values we are giving. In the C language it says enter two numbers. When we enter two numbers, for example 2 and 3, the 2 and 3 is called input. No, that entire activity is the input. That value of 2 stored in some variable like in x, and that value of 3 it stores in some more variable, some another variable y. That entire activity is called input, not only the 2 and 3. Okay, but in engineering colleges, in our like trainers or instructor, they said that these values are input. No, the activity is called input. Okay, then what is output? After the calculations, whether you want to add or whether you want to subtract, when it done, when it once done, okay, okay, output are the value, the resultant, otherwise you can call it as a resultant, you can call it as a result, will be generated. For example, if you want to add two numbers, 2 plus 3, it will give the result 5. Result will be generated and they must be transferred, must be transferred onto the output device for user viewing or Okay, you can. Okay, after the calculations are done, whether you want to addition, you want to subtract, you want to multiplication or division, result will be generated, right? For example, if you want to add 3 plus 4, it is 7. That 7 will be generated, and the result, they means here result, maybe it is not one, it is more than one. Sometimes we can get the more than one results. They must be transferred onto the output device. What are the output devices we have? Okay, the major primary output device is our screen. Okay, this screen is a output device for user viewing. For example, you see, if I'm writing some name like Kavita, just I type in with my keyboard, but it will appear here in the screen. Okay, so this is output, and when I type through keyboard, that is called input. Okay, actually input and output, it has a very broad meaning. Okay, but in colleges, in some training sessions, they call it the input is nothing but just values which we are giving. Output is nothing but those values which we see on the computer or screen or on the monitor. Okay, okay, this activity is known as output. Okay, which we can see on the output device. The primary output device is nothing but monitor and anyone. What are the output devices we have? Very good, beta. Very good. Printf and scanf. Lavan. Okay. Printf and scanfs are input and output functions. Okay. Now tell me how many output devices we have. Anyone? Ritishri, beta. Kirti, Lavanya, Kavita, Chamu, Abhiram, Chandra. What are the output devices we have? Maggie. Recording. Just I'm speaking. It is not okay. Yeah, tell me how many output devices we have. Hmm? Maggie has left. Okay. Printer, very good. It is output device, and monitor, very good, and okay, speaker, very good, and very good, beta. Chamu, very good. Okay. So these are the output devices. So output is nothing but just a value. It is not just a value. Our input, it is not just a value. The entire activity is called input and output. Okay. Okay, so this is called input and output. These activities, these activities, okay, which is input and output activities must be done explicitly. Explicitly. hmm, Explicitly by the user. Okay, we have to do this activity. We have to give the values 2 and 3, and we have to tell the compiler. We have to tell the compiler that store this 2 value in some variable x, store this 3 value in some more variable y. So we have to explain, we have to tell the C compiler. Okay, how can we tell? How can we tell? We should inform, okay, store this 2 value and 3 value in some variables and give some output. Okay, what is the output? Which is nothing but z. Okay, so we have to tell the C compiler explicitly. That's what is called explicitly. How can we tell? For input purpose, we can use scanf. Okay, through scanf function, we can tell the C compiler that these are the input values which should be stored in some x and y by using functions. Very good, beta. Okay, okay. So most of the thing we think that when we give the values, then it will give the output. No, we have to tell each and everything to the C compiler. Okay, those activities are called input and output activities. We have to done, or we have to explain explicitly. Okay, by the user means we. Okay, for input we use scanf. For input purpose, for output purpose, we are using printf function. These two functions, okay, stored in which header file, beta? In which header file? In stdio.h. This one also. Okay, it is also in stdio.h. It means if you want to use scanf function for input purpose and printf function for output purpose, we need to include stdio.h file. H means header files, because in this header file only we have scanf and printf functions. Okay, that is the thing. Now we will learn how this scanf and printf will work. Okay, actually these are the basic things most of you know, but I don't want to miss this also. Maybe there are some students who don't know about scanf and printf, right? For them I am explaining each and everything. Okay, these input, or we can call it as output operations, can be done in two ways. Can be done in two ways. Okay, to giving the values and receiving the values. Okay, it can be done in two ways. Okay, the first one is formatted functions. Formatted functions. Second one is unformatted. Second one is unformatted. First one is formatted. Second one is unformatted. We can give the values and we can receive the values in two ways. One is formatted operation. Second one is unformatted. Okay. First, I will explain what is a formatted. What is a formatted? Formatted input, or we can call output statements, enable the user to specify the types, the type of the data, or we can call it the data, and the way in which it should be read or write, or we can call it the written also. Okay. Formatted input output statements enable to specify the type of the data. For example, if you want to integer, then we have some other formatters. If you want to enter floated values, decimal values, then we have other formatted text. If you enter only single character, then we have different. If you are using collection of characters like string, then it we have different formations. Okay, so there are two types of, okay, input and output operations we can done. One is via formatted, second one is unformatted. In formatted, what happened is all the input and output statements like printf and scanf enable to specify the type of the data. For example, if you are using percentage %d, it is nothing but you can enter digit. It is percentage %f. F means float. D means digit. It means you can enter integers. Okay. Percentage %f is nothing but float. So you can store decimal values. You can store decimal values. Okay, na? Okay. So that we have some formatted statements to do our input and output operations. Okay, na? Here it enables, okay, which type of data we are entering and in which way it should be read or write. When we have files concept now, you can easily understand what is write and what is written and what is wrote and what is read. Okay. Formatted input or output functions are, one is scanf and another one is printf. Okay, these are the basic primitive input output functions in stdio.h, in standard input output.h. These two are very commonly we are using to get the input and output operations. The next one is these two functions these two functions are present where in the header file called stdio.h. In the stdio.h, we should use like this, stdio.h. Okay, this is about formatted statements, input and output. Okay, in that the first one is formatted input function. What is the formatted input function? Okay, what are the formatted input function? Basically, which is nothing but scanf. 90% we are using scanf. Okay, what is scanf? It will take the values and it will ask the compiler whether the given value is integer or float or character or string or boolean values. Okay, so we have to follow some formations, we have to follow some rules. Okay, to get the input operations. Okay. Here by scanf, to read, what is the scanf? It is used to read. What is printf? To write, to read values into the variables of the program. Okay, accepted, accepted from the keyboard, from the keyboard. Okay, c language, c language provides the function called scanf, the function called scanf. Okay, to read the values into the variables. Okay, through keyboard. Okay, through keyboard. Okay, so that time c language provide scanf function. Scanf function is nothing but it is used to read the values. Okay, and what is the use of this scanf? This is scanf is used to accept numeric, character and string type of data. Okay, by using scanf, okay, we can send numeric values, character values and string values. Okay, so we can scanf accept numeric values, character values and string values. Okay, that's why it is called input function. Format, it is called also called as a syntax. Okay? Format, as we can call it is a syntax. Okay, what is the syntax for this? Scanf, you have to write some string, write down some string. Okay, and you have to write down variable list, variable list. That's it. Okay, what is the scanf duty? It should take the values from the keyboard and it will store in the variable. Okay, there are two parameters in scanf. We have at least two parameters in scanf. At least two parameters we can send. Okay, the first one is string. For example, if you want to add two numbers, okay, what is the scanf? It is nothing but addition of two numbers, addition of two numbers. This is the first, we can call it the argument or segment. What is the second one? Okay, addition of two numbers. Okay, here we have to write down the values where it can store. Okay, or else we can, sometimes we can call it either, for example, if you want to add, if you want to set two values, okay, which is nothing but x comma y. Okay, and those x and y, if you declare as a integers, integers, at that time use this one. Okay, I will explain in our program detailedly, but here in the scanf, the first one is string, the second one is variable list. For example, if you have three variables, then x comma y comma z, and here also again we have to take one more d. D means digit, d means digits. Okay, if you are using variables which are integer data type, at that time you should use percentage d. Okay, if you have 20 variables, then you have to write down 20 times percentage d. Okay, so this is the one way of sending the values or activity. Okay, na? Here we should understand what is a string, or we can call it a control string. You can call it a control string or just a string. Okay, now we can understand what is a control string. What is a control string? It is nothing but, it is a sequence, means one by one. For example, after 107, what is the sequence? 108. After 108, what is the sequence? 109, like that. Okay, it is a sequence of one or more character groups. Character group. For example, if you want to add two numbers, then you have to write down addition of two numbers. Okay, which is declared to some groups, some character groups also. Okay, but mostly use this one. Okay, mostly we are using the standard character strings. Here in each, okay, each character, okay, Here in the control string, each character in a control string is a combination of percentage symbol and one of the conversation. One of the conversation. It means this control string is nothing but combination. For example, here what is the combination? Even though it is the same percentage d, but the first percentage is okay assigned to x value. The second percentage, okay, I think here we do not have, yeah, right. The second percentage, it is a 35, okay. The second percentage is nothing but y. The third percentage is nothing but z, okay. So each character is a combination of percentage symbol and one of the conversation. If it is a float, okay, if you declare any float values, then use percentage f. If you declare any character values, then use percentage c, okay. So it is a combination of percentage as well as conversation, okay na? The last one is the control. The control string specifies the type of the values which we are entering. You see here percentage d means it is a digit, so we are providing digits or integers. If it is a percentage c, then it is we providing characters. If it is a percentage s, means it is a string collection of characters, okay. Here the control string specifies the type of the values and number of values. How many values? For example, if you are using array, okay, if you mention a of 10, it means you can store up to maximum 10 values. So this control string explains that what type of value we are giving and how many number of values are there, okay. Okay, so this is about just input and output operations, especially scanf. Tomorrow I will explain printf statement. These two are formatted input and output functions, okay. There are some unformed functions also there, okay. I will explain tomorrow, okay. So this is about today's tonight's session or class, okay. So which one you like? You want to write or I will? You okay. Okay. Can you have time to write down or shall I post this in our chat box? Of the student, they said that. Yeah, definitely, Abhirav. Scanf, use address operator. Okay. Here also we have the notes. You see, and I will send this notes to our group. Today is 17, right? August 2002, C language, and it is NTH, guys. NTH means our Narayana temples. Okay. Now come to our group. First boys. Okay. In the desktop, it is 17. Okay. 17 again. Okay. You got it? అర్థమైందమ్మా? Okay. SQL class. Any doubts regarding today's class? Everyone. Okay. So this is our end of today's session.